Have you ever noticed how the people who are always available, always saying yes, always ready to drop everything for others, are often the ones who get the least respect? It's one of life's cruelest paradoxes. You think being constantly available makes you valuable, but in reality, it makes you invisible. Today, I'm going to reveal 11 Stoic rules that will transform how people see you, how they treat you, and most importantly, how you see yourself. These aren't just tips or suggestions. These are battle-tested principles from ancient philosophy that have been proven over thousands of years. From understanding the power of scarcity to mastering the art of strategic absence, these rules will teach you how to command respect without demanding it, how to become valuable by being selective, and how to transform yourself from someone who is taken for granted into someone who is genuinely appreciated. But here's the truth that most people don't want to hear. Being respected isn't about being liked by everyone. It's not about being the nicest person in the room or the most accommodating. It's about having standards, maintaining boundaries, and understanding that your time and energy are your most valuable resources. When you learn to protect these resources, when you learn to be selective about how you spend them, people will naturally begin to respect you. Not because you demanded it, but because you demonstrated through your actions that you are someone worthy of respect. So if you're tired of being the person everyone calls when they need something but ignores the rest of the time, if you're exhausted from saying yes to everything and everyone, if you're ready to reclaim your value and command the respect you deserve, stay with me. These 11 Stoic rules will change not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. Before we begin, I ask that you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications so you don't miss any new content. Without further delay, let's begin. Rule number 1, your availability is your currency. Let's start with the fundamental principle that everything else builds upon. Your availability is your currency. And like any currency, when you flood the market with it, it becomes worthless. Think about gold. Why is it valuable? Because it's rare. Why is air not valuable? Because it's everywhere. The same principle applies to you and your time. When you're always available, always ready to help, always there at a moment's notice, you're essentially telling the world that your time has no value. You're communicating that you have nothing better to do than to wait around for others to need you. And whether you realize it or not, people hear that message loud and clear. They may not articulate it consciously, but subconsciously they categorize you as someone whose time isn't valuable, which means someone who isn't valuable. The Stoics understood this principle deeply. Seneca wrote extensively about the value of time, calling it our most precious possession. He observed that people are careful with their money, but careless with their time. Yet time is far more valuable than money, because once it's gone, you can never get it back. When you're constantly available to others, you're giving away your most valuable asset as if it were worthless. But here's what makes this rule so powerful. When you start treating your availability as currency, when you start being selective about how you spend your time, something remarkable happens. People start treating your time as valuable too. They stop assuming you'll always be there. They start appreciating when you do make time for them. They begin to respect your schedule because you've shown through your actions that it deserves respect. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine two people. Person A always responds immediately to messages, always says yes to last-minute plans, always makes themselves available no matter what. Person B sometimes takes hours or even a day to respond, is selective about which invitations they accept, and often says they already have plans. Who do you think people value more? Who do they make more effort for? It's person B every single time. This isn't about playing games or being manipulative. It's about genuinely valuing your time. It's about understanding that you have your own goals, your own priorities, your own life. that doesn't revolve around being available to others. When you have this genuine sense of the value of your time, being selective with your availability isn't a strategy, it's a natural consequence. So how do you implement this rule? Start by auditing how you currently spend your time. How much of it is spent on things that truly matter to you versus things you feel obligated to do for others? How often do you drop your own plans to accommodate someone else? How quickly do you respond to every message and request? Once you see the pattern, you can start making changes. The key is to start small. You don't need to suddenly become unavailable to everyone. Start by adding a buffer between request and response. Don't respond to messages immediately unless it's genuinely urgent. Take time to consider whether you actually want to accept an invitation before saying yes automatically. Protect certain times in your schedule as non-negotiable, times when you're simply not available to others. As you implement this, you'll notice something fascinating. Some people will actually respect you more. They'll appreciate your time more when they get it. They'll start considering whether their request is actually important before bringing it to you. These are the people worth keeping in your life. Other people will get upset. They'll complain that you've changed, that you're not as available as you used to be. These are the people who were using you, who valued your availability, but not actually you. Their departure or adjustment is not a loss, it's a filtering process. Remember, treating your availability as currency doesn't mean becoming cold or unavailable to the people who truly matter. It means being intentional about where you invest this precious resource. The people who genuinely care about you will understand and respect your boundaries. The people who don't were never really caring about you anyway. They were caring about what you could do for them. Rule number 2, strategic absence creates value. Building on the first rule, let's explore a more advanced principle, strategic absence. There's an old saying, absence makes the heart grow fonder, and while it's often dismissed as a cliché, there's profound truth in it, rooted in basic human psychology and Stoic wisdom. When something or someone is always present, always available, we stop noticing them. They become part of the background, taken for granted. But when they're absent, we suddenly notice the void they left. Marcus Aurelius understood this principle well. As Emperor of Rome, he couldn't be everywhere at once, yet his presence was felt throughout the empire. He knew that strategic absence, knowing when not to show up, was just as important as knowing when to appear. His rare public appearances carried weight precisely because they were rare. Think about how this plays out in everyday life. The friend who shows up to every single event eventually becomes invisible. People stop making an effort to engage with them because they know they'll always be there. But the friend who is selective about which events they attend, when they show up, people notice, people make an effort to talk to them. Their presence is an event in itself. Strategic absence isn't about being flaky or unreliable. It's about being selective. It's about understanding that your presence is valuable. And like any valuable thing, it should be given thoughtfully, not scattered carelessly. When you show up to everything, you dilute the value of your presence. When you're selective, each appearance carries weight. This principle applies across all areas of life. In relationships, the person who is always there, always available for every text, every call, every hangout, becomes background noise. But the person who has their own life, their own interests, their own schedule, that sometimes conflicts with others' desires, becomes interesting. People wonder what they're doing. They value the time they do get with them. They don't take them for granted. In professional settings, the employee who is always in the office, always saying yes to every project, always available for every meeting, often gets passed over for promotions. Why? Because their presence is constant, unremarkable. But the employee who is selective about which projects they take on, who has clear boundaries around their time, who sometimes says no, they get noticed. Their contributions stand out because they're not diluted across everything. The key to strategic absence is intentionality. You're not absent because you don't care or because you're lazy. You're absent because you have other priorities, other commitments, other aspects of your life that are equally or more important. This is the crucial distinction. Random absence is just flakiness. Strategic absence is power. So how do you practice strategic absence? Start by being more selective about where you invest your presence. Not every invitation deserves a yes. Not every gathering requires your attendance. Not every conversation needs your input. Ask yourself, does this truly align with my priorities? Will my presence here add genuine value, or am I just showing up out of habit or obligation? Is this the best use of my time and energy? When you do choose to be absent, you don't need to provide elaborate explanations or apologies. A simple, "I have other commitments," or "that doesn't work with my schedule," is sufficient. The people who respect you will accept this without pressing for details. The people who push back are the ones who are taking your constant availability for granted. One powerful practice is to occasionally cancel plans you could technically attend, not because you want to be manipulative, but because you need to reinforce to yourself and others that your time is flexible, that you have the right to prioritize your own needs, and that your presence isn't guaranteed. This might feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to being the reliable person who never cancels. But discomfort is the price of growth. Another aspect of strategic absence is knowing when to remove yourself from toxic situations. Don't be present for drama. Don't show up to every argument. Don't engage with every provocation. Your absence from negativity is just as powerful as your presence in positivity. When you refuse to participate in dysfunction, when you simply remove yourself from unhealthy dynamics, you're exercising power. You're saying through your actions that you won't be part of this, that your presence comes with conditions. Remember, strategic absence isn't about punishing others or teaching them lessons. It's about respecting yourself enough to be selective about where you invest your presence. It's about understanding that you are not obligated to be everywhere for everyone all the time. It's about creating space in your life for what truly matters by eliminating what doesn't. Rule number 3, never explain, never complain. Now we arrive at one of the most powerful and misunderstood rules: never explain, never complain. This phrase, often attributed to British royalty, is actually deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy. Epictetus taught that we should focus on what we can control and remain indifferent to what we cannot. Part of what we cannot control is other people's understanding and approval of our choices. When you over-explain your decisions, you're essentially asking for permission or validation. You're signaling that your choice needs justification, which implies it might not be justified. This immediately puts you in a weaker position. The person who confidently makes a decision and moves forward without lengthy explanations commands respect. The person who provides paragraph-long justifications for every choice appears weak and uncertain. Think about it. When someone says, "I can't make it to your event," and leaves it at that, you might be disappointed, but you accept it. But when someone says, "I can't make it because my cousin's friend is in town and I promised I'd help them move, but actually, I'm not even sure if that's still happening, and honestly, I'm really tired, and I was thinking, maybe I could stop by for a bit, but I don't know if that makes sense," and what's your reaction? You lose respect for them. Their excessive explanation makes them appear weak, indecisive, and frankly, like they're lying. The same principle applies to complaining. When you constantly voice your complaints about your situation, your challenges, your difficulties, you're advertising your powerlessness. You're telling everyone that life is happening to you, that you're a victim of circumstances beyond your control. The Stoics taught that we always have control over our responses, our attitudes, and our actions, even when we can't control external events. Complaining is an advertisement that you don't understand this fundamental truth. This doesn't mean you can never discuss challenges or seek advice. There's a crucial difference between discussing a problem to find solutions and complaining. When you discuss a problem, you're focused on understanding it and resolving it. When you complain, you're focused on the problem itself, on how unfair it is, on how hard things are for you. One is empowering, the other is disempowering. Let me give you practical examples of how to implement this rule. When you can't attend something, instead of a long explanation, try, "I won't be able to make it, but thanks for the invitation." That's it. No elaborate story about why, no justification, just a clear, polite decline. If pressed for details, you can add, "I have other commitments," and leave it there. When someone asks why you made a particular choice, instead of a defensive explanation, try, "It was the right decision for me," or "It aligned with my priorities." Notice how these responses are complete without being defensive. You're not arguing your case, you're simply stating your position. When facing a challenge, instead of complaining about how hard it is, try, "I'm working through some challenges," or simply say nothing at all and focus on solving the problem. Save detailed discussions of difficulties for your closest confidants, the people who genuinely care and can offer real support. Don't broadcast your struggles to everyone who asks, "How are you?" The power of this rule is that it forces you to become more self-assured. When you can't fall back on long explanations and constant complaints, you're forced to be confident in your decisions. You're forced to develop an internal locus of control, to stop seeking external validation for every choice you make. This internal shift is what ultimately commands respect from others. People are drawn to strength and repelled by weakness. Constant explanation and complaint are signals of weakness. They indicate that you need others to understand you, to validate you, to approve of you. But confidence needs none of these things. Confidence simply is. It makes decisions and moves forward. It faces challenges without broadcasting them. It exists independently of others' opinions. This doesn't mean becoming cold or secretive. You can still be warm, open, and genuine while following this rule. The difference is in your energy. Are you seeking validation or simply sharing? Are you complaining or solving? Are you explaining because someone genuinely needs information or because you need them to approve of your choice? 1. Powerful practice is to catch yourself mid-explanation and stop. When you notice you're 3 sentences into justifying why you can't attend something or why you made a particular choice, pause. Has the other person asked for this level of detail? Do they need to know all this? Or are you over-explaining out of habit, out of a need for validation? More often than not, you'll realize the explanation was for you, not for them. Similarly, catch yourself complaining. When you start to voice a complaint, pause and ask, what am I hoping to achieve with this? Am I looking for a solution or am I just venting? If you're looking for a solution, reframe the complaint as a problem-solving discussion. If you're just venting, consider whether this is the right time, place, and person for that. Remember, the rule is never explain, never complain, not never communicate, never be vulnerable. There are times when explanation is necessary and appropriate. There are times when sharing struggles creates connection and opens doors for help. The key is discernment. Explain when explanation serves a purpose beyond seeking validation. Share struggles with people who can and want to help, not as a general broadcast of victimhood. Rule number 4, master the art of the pause. Let's explore a rule that seems simple but is incredibly difficult to master. The art of the pause. In a world that demands immediate responses, that values speed over thoughtfulness, that mistakes reactivity for engagement, learning to pause before responding is a superpower. The Stoics, particularly Marcus Aurelius, emphasized the importance of that space between stimulus and response. That space is where your power lives. When someone asks you for something, What's your immediate response? If you're like most people, you either say yes automatically or you start explaining why you can't. But what if you did neither? What if you paused? What if you simply said, "Let me think about that and get back to you"? This simple pause changes everything. First, it gives you time to consider whether you actually want to do what's being asked. How many times have you said yes to something only to regret it later? How many commitments have you made that you wish you hadn't? Most of these could have been avoided with a simple pause. When you respond immediately, you're responding from habit, from people-pleasing instincts, from the discomfort of potentially disappointing someone. But when you pause, you create space to respond from your actual priorities and desires. Second, the pause demonstrates that your time and consideration have value. When you agree to things immediately, you signal that you're always available, always ready to accommodate. But when you pause, you signal that you have other things to consider, other priorities to weigh. This automatically positions you as someone whose time is valuable, someone who makes considered decisions rather than impulsive ones. Third, the pause often makes the other person reconsider their request. When people know you'll say yes immediately, they'll ask for anything. But when they know you'll pause and consider, they start filtering their requests. They'll only bring you things that are actually important because they know you're going to evaluate whether it's worthy of your time. This filtering effect alone can dramatically reduce the demands on your time and energy. Let's talk about how to implement the pause in different situations. When someone asks for your time or help, resist the urge to respond immediately. Instead, say something like, "I need to check my schedule and get back to you," or "Let me think about that and I'll let you know." Even if you know right now that you could technically do it, take the time anyway. This isn't deceptive, it's wise. You're giving yourself space to consider not just whether you can, but whether you should. When someone asks for your opinion or advice, pause before offering it. Take a moment to actually consider what you think, rather than just saying whatever comes to mind first. This has two benefits. Your input will be more thoughtful and valuable, and you'll avoid the trap of constantly offering unsolicited opinions that diminish your credibility. When someone criticizes you or says something provocative, pause before responding. This might be the most important application of this rule. The Stoics taught that we should never respond to provocations from emotion. The pause allows your initial emotional reaction to settle so you can respond from wisdom rather than from hurt, anger, or defensiveness. More often than not, when you pause, you'll realize that many provocations don't deserve any response at all. In conversations, resist the urge to fill every silence. Let there be pauses. Let there be moments where nothing is being said. These pauses are often where the most profound communication happens. They're where people process what's been said, where deeper thoughts emerge, where real connection forms. The person who is comfortable with silence in conversation is the person who controls the conversation. The pause is also crucial in decision-making. The bigger the decision, the longer the pause should be. Never make significant decisions in the heat of the moment, under pressure, or in the midst of strong emotions. Always pause. Always give yourself time to consider from a clear, calm state of mind. As the Stoics taught, the quality of your decisions determines the quality of your life, and quality decisions require space and consideration. One powerful practice is to implement a mandatory pause for certain categories of requests. For example, you might have a rule that you never commit to social plans immediately, you always take at least a day to consider. Or you never agree to take on a new project without sleeping on it first. These self-imposed pauses protect you from impulsive commitments you'll later regret. Another aspect of mastering the pause is learning to be comfortable with the discomfort it creates. When you pause instead of responding immediately, there's often an awkward moment. The other person is waiting. There's silence, there's uncertainty. This discomfort is what pushes most people to respond immediately, even when they shouldn't. But if you can learn to be comfortable with this discomfort, to sit in it without rushing to fill it, you've acquired real power. The pause is also about respecting your own processing time. Different people process information and make decisions at different speeds. There's nothing wrong with needing time to think. In fact, the people who make the best decisions are often those who take time to consider carefully rather than deciding impulsively. By pausing, you're honoring your own process and making space for your best thinking. Remember, the pause doesn't mean indefinite delay or indecisiveness. It's a brief space between request and response, between stimulus and reaction, between impulse and action. It might be a few seconds, a few hours, or a few days, depending on the situation. The point isn't the length of the pause, it's that there is one, that you've created space for intention rather than reacting automatically. Rule number 5, let your actions speak louder than your words. We've all heard the phrase, actions speak louder than words, but few people truly understand what this means or how to implement it as a way of being. The Stoics were masters of this principle. They didn't spend time talking about virtue, they practiced it. They didn't announce their principles, they lived them. Epictetus was famous for saying, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." In modern life, we've become addicted to announcing our intentions, broadcasting our plans, and talking about who we are or who we want to be. Social media has amplified this tendency to an absurd degree. People announce that they're starting a new business, a new fitness routine, a new relationship philosophy, a new way of living. They talk endlessly about their goals, their values, their transformation. And then nothing happens. The announcement was the goal, not the actual change. This is not how you command respect. Respect is earned through demonstrated capability, through proven reliability, through consistent action over time. It's never earned through announcements, promises, or explanations of who you are. When you let your actions speak, you're allowing reality to make your case for you. You're letting results tell the story rather than words. Let me give you practical examples. Instead of telling everyone you're going to start a new business, start it and tell them about it once it's established and successful. Instead of announcing that you're getting in shape, get in shape and let people notice the transformation. Instead of explaining that you're someone who values their time and has boundaries, simply demonstrate boundaries through your actions. Instead of telling people you're reliable, be reliable consistently and let that reliability speak for itself. The power of this approach is threefold. First, you avoid the trap of mistaking announcement for accomplishment. When you announce your intentions, your brain gets a hit of dopamine as if you've already achieved the thing. This actually makes you less likely to follow through because you've already received some of the reward. But when you keep your intentions to yourself and just work toward them, you stay hungry, motivated by the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Second, you build genuine credibility. Anyone can talk about what they're going to do or who they are. Talk is cheap, as they say, but actually doing things, actually demonstrating capabilities, actually living according to your principles, that's rare and valuable. When people see that you're someone who acts rather than just talks, they trust you more, respect you more, and take you seriously. Third, you maintain an air of mystery and intrigue. When you're always broadcasting your every move and thought, you become an open book, predictable and uninteresting. But when you're selective about what you share, when people have to observe your actions to understand who you are, you become fascinating. People pay attention. They want to know more. They respect the fact that you're not seeking their validation through constant updates about your life. This rule requires a significant shift for most people because we're conditioned to believe that communication is always good, that sharing is connecting, that openness is strength. But there's a difference between authentic vulnerability with close confidence and indiscriminate broadcasting to everyone. The former builds real connection, the latter dilutes your power and credibility. So how do you implement this rule? Start by reducing how much you announce about your intentions, and increase how much you simply do. Before you post about starting something new, ask yourself, am I sharing this to connect authentically or to get validation? Am I announcing this because it serves a purpose or because I want credit for something I haven't actually done yet? Create a practice of working in private. Have projects, goals, and efforts that only you know about. Let the results of these efforts be the first time anyone hears about them. This builds character because you're doing things for their own sake, not for recognition. It builds discipline because you have to motivate yourself without external cheerleaders. And it builds respect because people see you producing results without the fanfare. When you do achieve something, let others mention it rather than announcing it yourself. When someone asks what you've been up to, give a brief, humble response rather than a detailed recounting of all your accomplishments. Let your work speak through its existence and quality, not through your marketing of it. This approach also applies to your principles and values. Instead of explaining to people what you stand for, simply stand for it through your actions. If you value honesty, be scrupulously honest in all your dealings. If you value loyalty, demonstrate loyalty to those who deserve it. If you value growth, consistently invest in your own development. People will understand who you are by observing what you do far more accurately than through listening to what you say about yourself. One of the most powerful applications of this rule is in handling disrespect or mistreatment. Instead of confronting every slight, explaining how you deserve better, or announcing that you won't tolerate certain treatment, simply remove yourself from the situation. Walk away, cut contact, adjust the relationship. Your actions demonstrate your standards far more powerfully than any words could. Remember, letting your actions speak doesn't mean you never communicate. It means you prioritize action over talk, demonstration over explanation, results over promises. You can still share your life with others, still be open and authentic. The difference is in your approach. Are you talking instead of doing? Or are you doing and occasionally sharing the journey with people who genuinely care? Rule number 6, create selective availability. Building on our earlier rules about availability being currency and strategic absence, let's explore the specific implementation. Creating selective availability. This means being intentionally available for certain people and purposes while being unavailable for others. It's not about being randomly available or unavailable. It's about being strategic and intentional about when and for whom you're accessible. The Stoics taught the importance of discretion in relationships. Marcus Aurelius wrote about choosing companions carefully, spending time with people who elevate you rather than drain you. Seneca talked about protecting your time from those who would waste it. They understood that not all relationships are created equal and that treating everyone with equal availability is actually a form of disrespect to yourself and to those who truly deserve your time. Selective availability means that your closest friends, your family, the people who genuinely matter in your life, they get preferential access to you. They can reach you more easily. You make time for them more readily. You're more flexible with your schedule for them. But acquaintances, casual contacts, people who only reach out when they need something, they get much more limited access. This isn't cruel, it's wise. You have limited time and energy. Spending it equally across all relationships means the important relationships get diluted, while the unimportant ones get more than they deserve. Selective availability ensures that the people who matter get the time and attention they deserve, while others get what's appropriate, given the nature of the relationship. Let me give you practical ways to implement selective availability. First, create different tiers of accessibility. Tier 1 might be your inner circle. These people can call you anytime, can expect relatively quick responses, can ask for favors with reasonable expectation that you'll help if you can. Tier 2 might be good friends and close colleagues. They can expect responses within a day, can occasionally ask for help, but understand you have priorities. Tier 3 might be acquaintances and casual contacts. They might wait several days for a response, and you're selective about what requests you honor. Second, use technology to enforce these tiers. Different people might have different access to you. Your inner circle might have your phone number and can call. Other people might only have your email or social media, which you check less frequently. Some people might have your personal contact, others only your professional one. These layers of accessibility naturally create selective availability without you having to constantly make decisions about it. Third, be transparent about your availability patterns without apologizing for them. You might tell people, "I check my messages once a day," or "I typically respond to emails within 48 hours," or "I'm not available for calls during work hours." These aren't apologies or explanations, they're simply information about how you operate. People who respect you will work within these parameters. People who don't respect them are revealing that they don't respect you. Fourth, don't feel obligated to maintain the same level of availability for everyone over time. As relationships change, your availability should change too. If someone proves themselves to be a drain on your energy, they move to a lower tier of accessibility. If someone proves themselves to be valuable and enriching, they might move to a higher tier. Your availability is earned and maintained, not given freely and permanently. Fifth, protect certain times as completely unavailable. This might be certain hours of the day, certain days of the week, or certain periods when you're focused on important projects. During these times, you're not available to anyone except perhaps in genuine emergencies. This protected time is crucial for your own goals, your own rest, your own life. Without it, you're constantly living in reaction to others' needs and never progressing on your own priorities. The beauty of selective availability is that it naturally filters your relationships. People who genuinely care about you will understand and respect your boundaries. They'll work within your availability because they value the time they do get with you. They might even appreciate that you have boundaries because it shows you're someone who values themselves. People who get upset about your selective availability, who complain that you're not as available as you used to be, who make it about them rather than respecting your needs, these people were never really caring about you anyway. They were caring about what you could do for them. This filtering process might be painful initially. You might lose some relationships or see them significantly change. But this isn't actually a loss. It's a clarification. You're discovering who was really in your corner versus who was just using you. The people who remain and respect your boundaries are the ones worth investing in. The ones who leave or complain were taking more than they were giving anyway. Selective availability also makes the time you do give more valuable. When people know they don't have unlimited access to you, when they understand that your time is precious and selectively given, they appreciate it more. They show up more fully when they're with you. They don't take your presence for granted. Your relationships actually become richer because they're built on genuine mutual value rather than on your constant availability. Remember, creating selective availability isn't about being cold, distant, or playing hard to get. It's about being intentional with your most valuable resource, your time. It's about recognizing that you cannot be all things to all people, that trying to be equally available to everyone means you're fully present for no one, including yourself. Rule number 7, develop outcome independence. Now we arrive at a more philosophical but incredibly powerful rule, developing outcome independence. This Stoic principle fundamentally transforms how you interact with others and how they perceive you. Simply put, Outcome independence means you're not attached to specific results of your actions or interactions. You do what you believe is right, what aligns with your values, what you genuinely want to do, but you're not attached to how others respond or what results from it. Epictetus taught this principle clearly. Focus on what is within your control and remain indifferent to what is not. What's within? Your control, your intentions, your actions, your effort, your character. What's not within your control? Other people's responses, opinions, feelings, and the ultimate outcomes of your actions. When you're attached to outcomes you cannot control, you give your power away. You become needy, manipulative, and ultimately ineffective. Think about how this plays out in everyday interactions. When you need someone to respond a certain way, when you need them to like you, agree with you, approve of you, help you, you become weak. Your need shows, and people can sense it. And ironically, people are repelled by neediness. The person who needs validation doesn't get it. The person who needs approval ends up chasing it endlessly. The person who needs a specific outcome will often do anything to get it, compromising their integrity in the process. But when you're outcome independent, when you genuinely don't need any particular response or result, you become powerful. You can be authentic because you're not trying to engineer a specific reaction. You can be honest because you're not afraid of disapproval. You can walk away from anything that doesn't serve you because you're not attached to any particular option working out. Let me give you concrete examples. In professional settings, the outcome-dependent person needs the promotion, needs the deal to go through, needs the recognition. This need makes them compromise, makes them tolerate poor treatment, makes them sacrifice their principles. The outcome-independent person would like these things, but doesn't need them. They're willing to walk away from a bad deal, willing to pass on a promotion that requires compromising their integrity, willing to let recognition come or not come. Paradoxically, this person often achieves more because they're negotiating from strength, not desperation. In relationships, the outcome-dependent person needs the other person to like them, to choose them, to respond in certain ways. This need makes them inauthentic, makes them needy, makes them willing to accept poor treatment just to keep the relationship. The outcome-independent person is genuine about their interest, but isn't attached to reciprocation. They can walk away if the relationship doesn't serve them. They don't compromise themselves, trying to make someone choose them. This independence is magnetic. It's the quality that actually attracts quality relationships. In conflicts, the outcome-dependent person needs to win the argument, needs the other person to admit they're wrong, needs some specific resolution. This need makes them escalate, makes them unable to let things go, makes them prioritize being right over being at peace. The outcome-independent person states their perspective but doesn't need the other person to agree or submit. They can agree to disagree. They can walk away from pointless arguments. This non-attachment often leads to better actual outcomes because they're not creating unnecessary conflict. So how do you develop outcome independence? It starts with a fundamental shift in how you define success and failure. Success isn't getting the outcome you wanted. Success is acting in alignment with your values and giving your genuine effort. Failure isn't things not working out as hoped. Failure is compromising your integrity or not trying because you were afraid of the outcome. When you define success and failure this way, outcomes become much less important. You can be at peace, whether something works out or not, because you know you acted with integrity. You can take risks because failure, in the external sense, doesn't actually threaten your real success, acting according to your values. You can be honest because disapproval doesn't equal failure. Another key practice is regularly reminding yourself what you can and cannot control. Before any significant interaction or decision, pause and identify what's in your control. Your actions, your words, your effort, your attitude. and what's not. Other people's responses, external results, circumstances beyond your influence. Commit fully to what you can control and consciously let go of attachment to what you cannot. Develop alternative options for everything important to you. If you have only one path to a goal, you'll be attached to that path working out. But if you have multiple possible paths, you can be flexible and non-attached to any specific one. If you have only one potential romantic partner, client, job, or friend, you'll be needy and attached. But if you have options, you can be genuinely outcome independent about any specific option. Practice walking away from things you want. This might sound counterintuitive, but it's powerful. Sometimes deliberately walk away from a good opportunity, a potential relationship, a benefit you could receive. Do this not as self-sabotage, but as practice in non-attachment. It trains you to know viscerally that you don't need any specific thing to work out, that you're fine either way. This practice builds genuine outcome independence rather than just intellectual understanding of it. Cultivate a deep sense of being enough as you are right now. Much of outcome dependence comes from a belief that you need certain things to happen to be okay, to be worthy, to be successful. But when you know at a deep level that you're enough regardless of outcomes, that your worth isn't dependent on external validation or results, outcome independence becomes natural rather than forced. Remember, outcome independence doesn't mean you don't care about anything or that you don't have preferences and goals. You can still want things, work toward things, hope for things. The difference is, you're not attached. You're not destroyed if they don't happen. You're not compromising yourself to make them happen. You're not making your peace dependent on specific outcomes manifesting. This is perhaps the most powerful rule for commanding respect, because outcome independence is rare and valuable. Most people are needy, attached, desperate for specific outcomes. The person who genuinely isn't, who can take it or leave it, who is fine either way, becomes fascinating and powerful. People want to be around that energy. They respect that strength. They're drawn to that confidence. Rule number 8, know when to walk away. We're approaching the final rules, and this one is crucial, knowing when to walk away. The Stoics taught that we should know our limits, recognize when a situation is no longer serving us, and have the courage to remove ourselves from it. Yet most people stay far too long in situations that harm them, relationships that drain them, jobs that exploit them, dynamics that diminish them. Why do people stay when they should leave? Usually it's a combination of sunk cost fallacy, I've already invested so much. Fear, what if I can't find something better? Hope, maybe it will change. Or misplaced loyalty, I can't abandon them. But the Stoics would see all of these as forms of attachment to things outside your control, as failures to focus on what actually matters, your well-being, your growth, your peace. Walking away is not giving up. It's not weakness. It's not failure. Walking away from what no longer serves you is actually one of the strongest things you can do. It says, my peace is more valuable than this situation. My self-respect is more important than this relationship. My future is more significant than my past investment. I choose me. The key is knowing when walking away is the right choice. Here are the signs. When you've clearly communicated what you need and nothing changes. When you're consistently disrespected despite setting boundaries. When the pain outweighs the joy more often than not. When you're compromising your values to maintain the situation. When you're the only one making effort. When your gut tells you something is wrong even if you can't articulate why. When you've given genuine chances for improvement and seen none. When staying is costing you your peace, health, or integrity. These signs apply across all areas: relationships, jobs, friendships, living situations, projects, commitments. When these signs are present consistently, walking away isn't just an option, it's the right choice. But here's what makes this rule challenging. Walking away requires you to tolerate uncertainty. You have to be okay not knowing what comes next. You have to trust that removing yourself from a bad situation is beneficial even before you have a better situation lined up. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes practical. The Stoics taught us to trust in our own resourcefulness, to believe that we can handle whatever comes, to know that we'll be okay. When you have this inner confidence, walking away becomes possible even when it's scary. You know that you've handled changes before, that you have the capacity to adapt, that something not working out doesn't mean you won't be okay. The power of walking away is that it's often the catalyst that changes either the situation or you. Sometimes when you walk away, the situation changes. The person who was taking you for granted realizes your value and steps up. The job that was underappreciating you suddenly offers what you asked for. The dynamic that was unhealthy shifts. But whether the situation changes or not, you change. You've demonstrated to yourself that you value yourself enough to leave what doesn't serve you. This fundamentally shifts your relationship with yourself and increases your self-respect. So how do you practice this rule? First, identify situations in your life right now where you know you should walk away but haven't. Be honest with yourself. What job are you tolerating that you know isn't right? What relationship are you maintaining that you know is unhealthy? What commitment are you keeping that you know doesn't align with your priorities? Write these down. Second, identify what's keeping you from walking away. Is it fear, sunk cost fallacy, misplaced guilt, hope that things will magically change? Understanding what's holding you back allows you to address it directly. Most of the time, when you examine these reasons, you'll find they don't hold up to scrutiny. The fear is overblown. The sunk cost doesn't justify more loss. The guilt is unwarranted. The hope is unrealistic. Third, make the decision to walk away from at least one thing that's not serving you. Start with something smaller if you need to build the muscle, but start. Give notice at a job you hate. End a friendship that drains you. Quit a commitment that doesn't align with your values. Cancel a subscription, membership, or obligation that you've been keeping out of inertia. Take the action. Fourth, don't look back once you've made the decision. The temptation after walking away is to second-guess yourself, to wonder if you made the right choice, to be pulled back by familiarity, even when that familiarity was negative. Resist this temptation, trust your decision, move forward without constantly looking backward. Fifth, be prepared for others to react when you walk away. Some will respect your choice. Others will try to manipulate you into staying. Others will be angry. Others will finally offer what you asked for all along. However they react, stay firm in your decision. Don't be pulled back in by last-minute changes that likely won't last. Don't be manipulated by guilt trips. Don't be swayed by others' discomfort with your choice. Walking away clean is crucial. Don't make a dramatic exit. Don't burn bridges unnecessarily. Don't spend energy explaining or justifying your choice to people who won't understand. Just leave. Quietly, decisively, completely. This is the Stoic way. No need for drama, just clear action based on clear principles. The respect you'll command by being willing to walk away is immense. People will see that you have standards. They'll understand that relationships with you, jobs with you, friendships with you are privileges, not entitlements. They'll realize that if they want you in their lives, they need to treat you well. This isn't about ego or power trips. It's about mutual respect and value. The people who remain in your life after you've demonstrated your willingness to walk away are the ones who truly value you. Rule number 9, eliminate people-pleasing behavior. We're in the final stretch of our rules, and this one is foundational. Eliminating people-pleasing behavior. People-pleasing is the opposite of commanding respect. It's the constant need to make others happy, often at your own expense. It's saying yes when you want to say no. It's suppressing your real opinions to avoid conflict. It's molding yourself to what you think others want, rather than being who you actually are. The Stoics would view people-pleasing as a fundamental misunderstanding of what you can control. You cannot control whether people like you or not. You cannot control whether they're happy with your choices. You cannot control their feelings or reactions. When you try to control these things through people-pleasing, you're fighting a losing battle and abandoning the things you actually can control: your integrity, your authenticity, your boundaries. People-pleasers often believe they're being kind or nice, but really, they're being dishonest. When you pretend to agree with something you don't agree with, you're being dishonest. When you say yes to something you want to refuse, you're being dishonest. When you hide your real self to present a more palatable version, you're being dishonest. This dishonesty, even when well-intentioned, prevents genuine connection and erodes self-respect. Moreover, people-pleasing doesn't actually make people respect you. Think about it. Do you respect the person who agrees with everything you say? Do you value the person who never pushes back or challenges you? Do you truly connect with someone who seems to have no opinions or preferences of their own? Probably not. The people we respect are those who have clear positions, who stand for something, who are willing to disagree when they actually disagree. So how do you eliminate people-pleasing behavior? It starts with understanding why you do it. Usually, people-pleasing comes from a fear of rejection, abandonment, or conflict. It's a protective strategy developed often in childhood. You learned that being agreeable, accommodating, and adaptive kept you safe or loved. But as an adult, this strategy no longer serves you. It actually prevents the authentic love and respect you crave. The first step is catching yourself in people-pleasing moments. Notice when you're about to say yes, but you want to say no. Notice when you're suppressing your real opinion. Notice when you're pretending to be okay with something that bothers you. Notice when you're bending yourself into a pretzel to accommodate someone else's needs while ignoring your own. Just noticing these moments is powerful because you can't change what you don't see. The second step is practicing saying no. Start small if you need to. Say no to a small request that you would normally accept despite not wanting to. Notice that the world doesn't end. Notice that most people accept your no just fine. Notice that some people might push back or seem disappointed, and that's okay. Their disappointment is not your responsibility to fix. Build this muscle gradually, and soon saying no when you mean no will become natural. The third step is expressing your actual opinions even when they differ from others. You don't have to be aggressive or argumentative about it. You can disagree respectfully, but you need to stop pretending to agree just to keep the peace. When someone says something you disagree with, try, "I see it differently," or "I have a different perspective on that." Notice that most people can handle disagreement just fine, and those who can't are revealing their own insecurity, not a flaw in your honesty. The fourth step is stopping over-apologizing. People-pleasers apologize constantly for things that don't warrant apologies. Sorry for bothering you. Sorry for taking up your time. Sorry for having needs. Stop. You're not bothering people by existing, by having needs, by taking up space. Reserve apologies for when you've actually done something wrong, and even then, apologize once, clearly and sincerely, then move on. Excessive apologizing signals that you don't believe you deserve to take up space, and others will treat you accordingly. The fifth step is recognizing that you cannot be responsible for others' feelings. If someone is disappointed because you set a boundary, that's their feeling to manage, not yours to fix by abandoning your boundary. If someone is upset because you expressed an opinion they disagree with, that's their reaction to handle, not yours to prevent by hiding your opinions. You're responsible for treating others with respect and kindness. You're not responsible for ensuring they never experience negative emotions. The sixth step is developing your own identity separate from others' expectations. People pleasers often have a weak sense of self because they've spent so long adapting to others that they don't know who they actually are. Take time to figure out what you like, what you value, what you believe, what you want, independent of what anyone else thinks. This might require spending time alone, trying new things, reflecting deeply, but it's essential because you cannot please everyone, and trying to do so means losing yourself entirely. As you eliminate people-pleasing behavior, you'll likely experience some relationships changing or ending. This is actually a good thing. The relationships that were based on your people-pleasing, where you were valued for your agreeableness and accommodation, those relationships weren't real anyway. You were playing a role, and they were relating to that role, not to the real you. As you become more authentic, you'll attract and maintain relationships based on who you actually are, and those relationships will be far more satisfying and genuine. You'll also command more respect. People respect authenticity even when they disagree with your positions. They respect people who have boundaries, even when those boundaries inconvenience them. They respect people who stand for something even when they stand for something different. The respect of people who only liked you when you were pleasing them isn't worth having anyway. Remember, eliminating people-pleasing doesn't mean becoming selfish, inconsiderate, or unwilling to compromise. It means your compromises are genuine choices you make willingly, not desperate attempts to keep others happy. It means your kindness comes from genuine care, not from fear of disapproval. It means you're being honest and authentic, which is the foundation of all real connection and all genuine respect. Rule number 10, build undeniable value. We're approaching our final rule, but before we get there, let's discuss one that takes time but pays eternal dividends: building undeniable value. This is the Stoic practice of continuous self-improvement, of developing yourself to the point where your value is obvious, where you bring so much to the table that people naturally want to be around you, work with you, learn from you. The Stoics were obsessed with virtue and excellence. Marcus Aurelius constantly pushed himself to be better, wiser, more disciplined. Seneca wrote extensively about using time well and developing one's character and capabilities. Epictetus taught that we should focus our energy on becoming the best version of ourselves rather than trying to control external circumstances. This focus on self-development is what builds undeniable value. Undeniable value is different from trying to prove your value. When you're trying to prove your value, you're coming from insecurity. You're working hard to convince others that you matter, that you're worthy of attention and respect. This desperation repels people, but when you have undeniable value, you don't need to convince anyone of anything. Your capabilities, character, and contributions speak for themselves. This quiet confidence is magnetic. So what constitutes undeniable value? It's a combination of skills, knowledge, character, reliability, and energy. In practical terms, it means you're exceptionally good at something valuable. It means you have wisdom and perspective to offer. It means people can count on you to do what you say you'll do. It means you add positive energy to situations rather than draining energy from them. It means you make things better by being there. Building undeniable value requires time and dedication because you're not just acquiring surface-level skills or knowledge, you're fundamentally developing yourself as a person. Here's how to approach it. First, identify one or two areas where you want to develop exceptional capability. Don't try to be great at everything. Choose areas that align with your interests and that have value in the world. This might be a professional skill, a creative ability, a body of knowledge, a form of leadership. Whatever it is, commit to becoming truly excellent at it. Second, invest daily in that development. This is where discipline comes in. You can't build real value by occasionally working on something when you feel like it. You need consistent, dedicated practice and study. Even 30 minutes a day, done consistently for years, will make you extraordinarily capable in your chosen area. Most people won't make this investment, which is exactly why it creates undeniable value when you do. Third, develop your character alongside your capabilities. Skills without character don't command respect. You might be technically competent, but if you're unreliable, dishonest, or toxic to be around, no one will want to work with you. Develop the Stoic virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, temperance. Work on being honest, reliable, fair, disciplined. This character development is actually more important than skill development, because skills can be learned relatively quickly, but character takes time and conscious effort to develop. Fourth, create value for others before asking for anything in return. This might seem counterintuitive in a discussion about commanding respect, but it's crucial. When you help others, when you solve problems, when you make contributions without immediately expecting something back, you're building a reputation and a network based on genuine value rather than transactions. People remember those who help them, and this creates goodwill and respect that far exceeds what you could demand. Fifth, build a track record of results. Value isn't just about potential or promises, it's about demonstrated capability. Make sure you're actually accomplishing things, completing projects, delivering on commitments. Each result you produce adds to your track record and makes your value more undeniable. People can dismiss talk and potential, but they can't dismiss consistent results. Sixth, maintain high standards for your own work and behavior. Don't cut corners, don't do sloppy work, don't compromise your integrity for short-term gains. Every time you maintain your standards, even when it would be easier not to, you're building undeniable value. This is the Stoic practice of virtue, doing what's right because it's right, not because anyone is watching or because you'll be rewarded. As you build undeniable value, several things will happen. First, you'll become more confident.